Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Work in Progress podcast, where Russian American consultants living in Dubai discuss getting ahead at work, financially, and at life. And with that, I'm Michael.
I'm Vlad. Hello, everyone.
And welcome to our first episode, and let's get going.
So, my wife, she came home last week, and she was very frustrated after her conversation with the agency they work with, because she asked, she was the client, and she asked the agency, she asked the partner to do some additional thing in the very tight timeline. She needed this, and they have the long-standing agreement and so on. This is proper client-partner relationship. And you know what the agency said? They said we cannot do this. It's above my pay grade. Ask someone else. This is actually what one of the team members said.
Wow.
And honestly, when my wife told me this story, part of me was wow, cool. I think I need to give the high five to this girl, because wow, this is how you protect the boundaries. But on the other hand, I believe if you want to be successful at your work, this is never the attitude. You cannot say, it's above my pay grade, it's beyond my job description, I'm not gonna do this. My work days end at 5:59, so I'm not gonna do this. I believe if you want to do something extra, you need to actually go a little bit beyond. And now, especially when we see all these TikTok videos, all the reels where they say, the employer, they will exploit you. Don't fall for this. You don't need to work hard. You don't need to work long hours. You just stick to your job description and that's it. I believe it's a very, I understand why it's becoming popular, but I believe this is a very toxic and very dangerous notion for our generation. Well, our generation and for generations to come. So what do you think? Would you give the high five to this girl who said, it's above my pay grade?
Would I give her a high five? I would point in the direction of the door, and if I was her employer, I'd say, get out of here. You can't work for me. Basically, I agree with your second part of the premise. When you're working anywhere, whatever job you have, again, everybody has a job description. There is that 9 to 5. There is all the regulations even around work. We're seeing this now in Europe, where the Europeans want to regulate when you can be contacted. Can you receive emails, after 5 p.m., all that type of stuff. Fine, we have the cultural expectation around work, but the most important thing about a job is doing the job, getting the task done. So that mentality, and I've seen the same thing on TikTok, and we used to do a lot of posting on TikTok with the other podcast, right? And it's the first time I ever used the app, actually. And I saw plenty of these nonsense Gen Z, okay, at 5:01, I'm out the door. So I'm packing up at 4:45, I'm out the door. If anybody asks, hey, don't you have stuff to do? Why are you leaving so early? And then people are saying, oh, well, it's 5 p.m. My contract ends at 5 p.m. That's the fastest way to ruin your career, not get promoted, not get pay increases. Companies and employers value what contribution you can make. Now, that's not advocating for a toxic culture, but in general, that response to me is awful. There's a cultural sickness if the response to that is, no, I'm going home, it's 5 p.m. If that's your default answer, the one thing I can promise you, and the one thing I'm sure we're going to discuss not only today, but on this podcast going forward, that's a recipe for failure in your personal life, not a recipe for success. You're not going to get promoted. You're not going to get, pay increases. So my reaction to, long story short, no high five. I tell her, get out of here. You're not a serious person. You're not a serious, employee if that's going to be your reaction. But what's your take on that?
I also think it's never about the time. A lot of people, they say your job should be limited, 9 to 5 or whatever your schedule is. I believe it's never about the timeline. It's never about the clock. You should not clock the hours. It's about getting things done. I think the easiest way to get stuck at work and then to get burnout, to hate it actually, it's if you just stick to your job description. Because job description, what is this? Like, it gives you the job responsibilities, some general requirements, and it's never about the top performer. If you want to grow, if you want to get more money, if you want to get promoted, if you want to, get noticed, get become seen at work, you need to do something extra, or at least you need to do something different. Because a lot of people, what I hear, they say like, this is my job description from A to Z. I will fulfill it. If I fulfill it, it means that I should receive the salary and I cannot be fired. Absolutely true, of course. But is it the real goal for you, like coming to work, that the main goal is not to get fired, or you want to achieve something more? I like this phrase that I heard. I think it was like one of my favorite TV shows. I think I will quote this a lot, like the Suits. Have you seen this?
Never seen Suits.
Oh my God.
I don't watch much TV.
Okay, yeah. So Suits is the TV show about the lawyers, about the legal firm. Very cool. By the way, when you have time, 100%, you need to watch it.
As you know, with work, speaking of the topic, we don't have much free time these days.
Yeah. So, and there was a nice phrase from the managing partner. She said, like, how can I count on you for the results if I cannot count on you for the effort? Like, you need to if you want to get the extra results, you need to put some extra effort. If you want to get something extraordinary, if you want to achieve extraordinary results, you need to put some extraordinary effort. Again, not to mention that, and I'm not advocating that we need to spend like 24/7 at work. No. Like I used to do this when I was an intern. I know how it feels. Like, we can discuss this later, but it's again you can do it once, you can do it twice, but when you do it regularly, something's wrong, either with you or with the team, with the manager. But I'm not saying that you need to leave at work, but I'm saying that if you want to get stuck in your career, the easiest way to do is to just clock your time and stick to the job description. And I remember my first week in consulting when I just joined the company.
Our company or your previous company?
No, previous, like long ago, like 10 years ago, when I first started working in a consulting firm in Russia. In my first intro week, my manager came up to me and said, you are now at the starting point of your career, and we are the company where you will never drown. So catch every single opportunity, jump into every project, try to get every initiative that you like, that you feel like doing, and every initiative that comes towards you in your direction. Don't worry, nobody will let you drown, because this is the team and you can do it. You will figure it out. And since then, I made this actually my kind of work mantra. I understand that pretty much everything is figure-outable. So if you don't know... Figure-outable.
Inventing new words, that's good.
If you don't know what to do, you will figure it out, or you will ask for help. So never limit yourself to, this is my job description, I don't need to go beyond. No, it's not the way. But everything is figure-outable, and you can do this. I believe that especially people who just start their career in when you're in your early 20s, you're just making first steps at work. I think this is super important to catch every opportunity you can.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm just jotting down a few things that I want to make sure I mention. So it's funny. I was having a conversation with actually one of our mutual bosses at work, right? And I was talking to him a few months ago. And we were talking about young people joining the team, and how to get young analysts up to speed when it comes to our industry, right, which is consulting. And obviously our industry is known for longer hours than usual. We're both suffering through that right now, but in general, that's just how it is, right? So we were talking about how do you get an analyst who, at the end of the day, you don't train to become a consultant, right? You don't study consulting in university. You might study a topic, then you get hired for the job, and you've got the particular skill set, whatever the case is. So he was saying, yes, the job is 9 to 5, but obviously consulting is already going to be flexible around that. Then if you want to be a good performer, or even an average performer in the very beginning of your career, what's required is to put in the extra effort. So he was mentioning, how do you get somebody fully up to speed with what we do and the type of work that we put out and the type of analysis that we do? That has to come at the analyst's own time. which seems unfair, which seems contrary to where the culture is moving. But if you join a new job, you want career advancement, you want to be, getting the salary increases, the promotions. You're not going to be doing that without being a dependable colleague. That's what it comes down to. And you don't just, walk through the gates. Okay, I'm here for my 9-to-5 salary. You're entitled to it. Anything like that. That's not how it goes. So without that sacrifice, particularly early in your career, as you mentioned, you're going to struggle. And then I think the point is, I think there's two types of people. It's another thing I jotted down. And I think we also want to discuss who the podcast is targeting, right? You've got two types of people. You've got the average performer who, as you said, their desire with their current job or even in life is just to be average, which is to go to work, to get your paycheck, call it a day, go home, put on your Netflix, open up a tin of ice cream, whatever the case is, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. And there's, that's okay if people want to do that.
Yeah, if that's your priority, if that's what you want to do, perfectly fine.
Which
like nobody said it's bad or good.
Right. It only becomes bad if your expectation is then, oh, where's my salary increase? Oh, where's my promotion? Well, no. Put the ice cream and Netflix down. You might need to do a bit more work, right? But I think we really want to target with the podcast and the discussions around people who want to get better, right? Who want to improve their careers, improve any aspect really of their life. And I think that was a huge takeaway I had talking to somebody very senior. And we both know the guy, right? He's about 20 years our senior. And he was saying the biggest thing you have to do early in your career is put in those extra hours. It sucks. You're not being paid for it, but you have to learn the material first. Then you can be a high-performing colleague. And at the end of the day, why do people get promoted and make more money? Because they can contribute more to the organization. So I think this whole trend, and you talked about it, where we're seeing that only 6% of Gen Z wants to be in a leadership position. We're seeing these TikTok trends about getting out of the office at 4:45 p.m., you know what? And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But then if you want to both do that and then complain that you're not paid enough and then complain about capitalism or this or that, well, then the joke is on you, really. So it's a decision I think that people need to make of what do you want to be? Do you want to be somebody who just gets the paycheck and their career happens to them? Or do you want to try to make something of your career? And I think that's a very important decision people need to make.
I want to disagree only with one thing about this.
Okay.
You mentioned, you need to put extra hours or extra time. I would rephrase it. You need to put extra effort.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily need to be extremely long hours, but you need to think a little bit like one step ahead. Nobody says that you need to, work 12 hours a day when you start, but you need to do a little bit more. And how you?
But that could mean 12 hours. Right?
Absolutely.
If you don't know what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. But how do you do this? It's different. You might ask someone. You might ask someone for help. You might figure out how to do it with AI today, whatever.
True.
You can find like different ways to. I don't know. You might spend extra 10 minutes to understand how to. I don't know how specific software works. And then use this software and to give yourself a boost, to speed yourself up. I remember again, there's a very interesting story, and my father told me this. Again, many years, these huge copy machines, printing machines that we have somewhere in the printing areas in the office, these huge ones,
the scanning machine.
Machine, these huge things. I remember my father told me a story that they got an intern. And everybody wanted this intern to be on their team because the guy was extremely creative and productive. And you know what he was doing? He read the actual manuals. He searched online for actual manuals of all the machines, all the equipment they had in the office. And imagine you have a task. You need to print out the several presentations for the executive meeting, 20 presentations. So what you need to do, you need to send them to the printing machine. You need to print it out. You need to bind them, prepare, and so on and so on. And what everybody was doing, they didn't have the time to read the manuals to understand how this machine works. What everybody was doing, they were printing it out, then they used the staples to do it manually. This guy spent extra 10 minutes. Found the manual for this specific machine and figure out that this machine can actually print and bind and laminate all together. So instead of doing this manually, he found the right mode and code this machine to do it for the entire department. like this. Of course, like he got noticed immediately because he solved a very minor but very annoying problem, and he saved a lot of people a lot of time. He put himself on the map with a very minor, annoying thing by spending extra 10 minutes of effort.
He made himself useful.
Exactly, like in his 20s. And think about it. My father told me this story, so he was kind of impressed. I felt a little bit like, like punched a little bit because it was told, as a lesson from the
That
father. I'm like,
you
you should be
don't
like,
be useless.
yeah. Don't be useless. Like, don't stick to this. And that was the moment where I started working. I became the intern myself at that time, and I was like, what I'm gonna do?
You went right to the copy machine.
I actually did this,
you?
and I if this machine had the same mode. It had, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah, so I started doing this as well. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, so things like this, they matter. Like, you need to be a little bit creative and just like spend 10 extra minutes.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I think that story, delivers home the core message, because there's another data point I was reading about over the weekend. Supposedly right now in the U.S., 40% of Gen Z entry-level jobs, there's 40% fewer entry-level jobs for Gen Z than there was only a couple of years ago. A lot of people are saying this because of AI, and most likely that's fully the case, but who knows if there's other reasons for that also. But if that's the case, 40% fewer job openings for entry-level employees, it becomes so critical not only to get a job, but to keep that job.
Yes.
And keeping that job is going to mean doing the things you're talking about. Be creative, put in the extra effort. If you need to learn on the job, you have to do that on your own time. At the end of the day, you're doing this for yourself. This is so you can eat. This is so if you do want a career later on, you'll be able to pursue that. I mean, I know just from my own personal story, when I first joined our current employer, how do I phrase it? I wasn't exactly the best employee. I wasn't a top performer, I guess we can say. And I was doing none of the things we're talking about, which is not taking my career too seriously, happily leaving at 5 p.m., happily arriving at, after 9 a.m., and all around not being all that serious.
When you say after 9, you mean after 10?
Not important. Important. Yeah, exactly. It's a long time ago. And I know, because early on I wasn't passionate about the career at all. I thought consulting, okay, I'll be in this for a couple of years. I'm only going to be in Dubai for a couple of years. I'll go home. I'll do something else. This is really just a bridge from university to, adulthood. And then over time, I realized actually there's elements of this job I really like. And on top of that, I really like being in Dubai as well, right? So overall, I then began to find a passion within the job, and then started doing all the things that I know you've been doing for a long time and that we're talking about, putting in that extra effort, learning on the job, prioritizing in a much better way. But my point is, I wish I had done that from a much earlier period of time. I spent the first couple of years in our company not doing those things, and that hurt me because I didn't get the promotions, I didn't get the pay increases. And then when I look back, that was a huge missed opportunity. Now that came still at a time when it wasn't that difficult to get a job. AI hadn't been, AI isn't, in our phones and our computers today, like, or back then as it is today. So I think stress and the sense of urgency has to be higher for especially young people now. I know we talk about it all the time and we feel that you need to keep justifying your place in your company and do what you can.
Anyway.
And that starts with not this 9-to-5 ridiculous cultural trend. It's really toxic, and I think it's going to hurt people much more than it helps. People are talking about they want to break from the stress, they don't want to burn out. 9-to-5 is not burnout. 9-to-5 is a normal career, that's been the legal time to work for like almost 100 years in the United States, at least. They passed laws about that like 100 years ago. It's not burnout to do 9-to-5. And either you find your passion and what you want to do, or you need to force yourself to do it. But if you don't, in this new environment with things like AI and all these other pressures, I think it's extremely toxic. Extremely toxic.
9 to 5, it's again just the timeline. Nobody tells that you need to stick to this timeline. I'm very sorry for those people who work exactly like clock to clock, who needs to who are getting checked if you arrive at like 8:59 or 9:01, and like company decides your performance based on that. And then if the company tracks if you leave in 5:59 or if you leave at 6:05. So I think we'll talk about this later, but in different in another episode, I guess. But I believe that, again, this is not the right way to motivate or to manage. But timeline is just the framework, right? It's just the frame. You like if you get everything done in 4 hours, okay, good. You can use the time for something else.
Find a corner office, put on your Netflix. Nobody will see if you get your stuff done.
If you get your stuff done, exactly.
Probably you won't, but
or maybe even better, if you get your stuff done, ask your team member next to you if they need help. If you have if you've done you're working 4 hours, right?
Yep.
So you can balance this. On the other hand.
And let me just quickly, that's the fastest way if you want to progress in a company is
Absolutely.
be useful to other people.
Absolutely,
100%.
I'm getting to this. I have a book that I want to quote on that. We'll get to this, I'm sure. And on the other hand, if you're not if you know that you need to put some extra 2 hours or 3 hours to get the things done, you cannot limit yourself to 5 p.m. and get out of work at 5 p.m., leaving everything till tomorrow because, just like your time schedule is 9 to 5. No. Again, if you keep it this way, then it means that something that should have been done today, you will only do it tomorrow or the day after or whenever your 9 to 5 schedule.
Tomorrow will then get further.
You get something else. Exactly. Exactly. Again, my personal story, I joined the company maybe five years ago, I guess. I joined the company, in Russia, huge retailer, huge retail company like Walmart, Carrefour, but in Russia, this type of things. I joined that company. It was quite an old-fashioned organization, huge headcount, different cultures everywhere, very, very proper mixed bag organization. Like you have people with a completely different background, different cities, different work cultures. And I remember I asked someone, I personally had a task. I needed to prepare a presentation for the board. And when the board asks for something, usually they have a very tight timeline.
Don't mess with the board.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have much choice to do. You don't have much room for, to negotiate, to push to the timeline, whatever. Just okay, tomorrow 10 a.m., it should be done. Okay, you have till tomorrow 10 a.m. That's it. So I needed some information from another department. I call them and it was somewhere in the middle of the day. I call them and I say, you know what? I need this information. It was some report from a couple of months ago. And they were the only one who could give it to me. Okay. And the response that I received, I was not ready for that because I came from consulting to that company. So usually in consulting, you have pretty flexible people who are ready to put some extra effort. And then the response I received was quite shocking. They said, oh, it will take me 3 hours to complete this report, but I'm leaving, my work today finishes in 2 hours and a half. So I can do it only tomorrow. I'm like, no. I need it today because I need to put it in the presentation by tomorrow. No. I can, it's not possible. If you want something, ask my manager. If they give me the order to do this, I will do this, and I will have to get paid for the extra time. Okay, I still needed this, so I went to their manager. Look, I need this data. Okay. The manager clarified what it's for, and okay, this is for the board meeting. I know I'm working on some slides on that as well. He came to that lady, said, you know what? You need to give this data, and you need to give it in 1 hour. It will not take you 3 hours to do. They were like, no, it will take me 3 hours. I will do it tomorrow. Okay, interesting. It's an interesting observation. She's quite protective of her time. Okay. Anyway, long story short. So the manager, the guy, he had to do the report himself. It took him 30 minutes to give me the data. Like we wrapped it up, okay. And that lady, she's still left like in 2 hours and a half. She didn't do this. But the funny thing is that 1 month later there was the restructuring in that department. Yeah, she got retired.
As in forcibly retired.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I think that just summarized, and it's a perfect metaphor for what's happening now. And I was thinking about this as you were telling that story. And we both know that when boards, CEOs, when even important companies, when they ask, you have to deliver. Simple as that. When our managers or somebody very senior in the organization needs something, you have to do it. And I was thinking about this. So where is this cultural rot coming from where we are starting to get the sense of entitlement where, no, sorry, after 5 p.m., you screw off, I'm not doing anything, which is ironic because in our culture today, we've got things like Amazon, which deliver us things same day or a day later. We have things like Netflix on demand, any amount of content we want, we immediately access it. So it's hilarious when we, the new generation, push back. I can't do this. This is off the clock. This is off my time. What if an Amazon worker chooses to do that? What if a senior in Netflix decides to do that and you don't have access to either your Amazon delivery or your nonsense Netflix show? It's going to be a big problem for you. These companies don't do that. So the point is, there are people there who are working around the clock or irregular hours or dealing with some of these challenges, and you don't have the capacity or willingness to put in your effort. Well, I mean, one, that's hypocritical, obviously, and two, then don't be surprised, as you said, when you get forcibly retired or the organization doesn't value you. Your monetary value is quite low in that environment. You need to be flexible and willing to support people. And if not, you're not going to have a career and you're not going to have that stability in your personal life, which I think, especially now, is so important. So yeah, I can't understand that cultural phenomenon at all.
I love this example. Like I haven't thought about this way, but yes, in reality, we expect everything to be done now, or like imagine if like the Amazon example is perfect. Whenever they, push your delivery date for 1 day, usually, like I personally get very frustrated about this. Like it happens quite often. Like you get the same day delivery, and the same day means tomorrow 9 a.m. And I'm like, why the hell is this? Same day means same day. I expect this to be delivered today. So we expect this from someone, like to get it, and we might get, upset when the delivery time is longer than 1 hour. And yet we will be willing to, to say, my 8 hours is done. Think about, if you think about this, like you again, if you want to get some extraordinary results, you will need to put some extra efforts. That's it.
It's very simple. And again, even that Amazon, you get pissed as an individual. You are one customer in their hundreds of millions, if not billions of customers. Your manager, when he needs something from you, you are one of a handful of people he can rely on. And you, again, and our culture and our generation, seemingly, especially the younger generation, Gen Z, they've got this, allergy to putting in that work and effort. But obviously, when they want something on demand, they expect it to be there, as it should be. But then again, it goes both ways, which is you want extraordinary results, as you're talking about. You want your whatever the heck you're ordering on Amazon. You want your shoes or your whatever delivered on time or early. Okay, well, if your manager needs something, you need to be valuable in that chain. And if you're not valuable in that chain, you will not progress. I've now, I've been employed for 10 years with this company. You've had 10 years of work experience. It's clear to see in the short term, the people who seemingly have good work-life balance, they're chilling, they're going home at 5 p.m., they're kind of taking it easy on a Friday, they do nothing on the weekends. That's fine. That looks great on paper. And frankly, it is good, if you can do that, if you can get your work done. Those people don't progress in organizations. They don't. They don't get promoted. They don't get pay increases. The people who rise the fastest are the ones willing to put that time in. And if you're serious about that, if your career is a work in progress and you want to move it, you have to be willing to do that. I mean, we were working today. Were we not? You were working before you got here. I was working before I got
True.
here. We're going to be doing some more work later, as we were talking about before we started. It's a Sunday. You still got to be willing to do it. And if you're not, then don't be surprised when you don't get the rewards. It's simple.
It's good you mentioned this. Yes, that's true. I've been working today right before we started the shooting. But, speaking of work-life balance, I was working today because I took 2 days off to attend my friend's wedding. So,
but you took it as leave, right?
yeah, I took it as leave. So I flipped it because I still need to get some things done by tomorrow and I need to show this result. So I flipped it to balance my actually work and life. So I can get it done at work and at the same time I don't miss something that is important in life. So this is, I think, very important. I don't know where it's coming from. I think we'll cover it in another episodes, actually, like teaser, we will. I don't understand whoever said that 9 to 5 is the work-life balance. If you keep your 9 to 5, it's nothing about work-life balance. Nothing. Work-life balance is completely different. And actually, I think we might question if it ever exists. Like, what is it, like work-life balance? Because I believe that a lot of people, they say, like, 9 to 5 means like, okay, I put my work aside in order to live life. Is it the balance? I don't think so. It doesn't sound to me like work-life balance. Maybe work-life balance is, I work 1 day and I chill for 6 days. Maybe this is the balance for someone. So I don't think that 9 to 5 has anything to do with work-life balance. And I want to get to recommend actually to our listeners one nice book that I believe every career starter and actually everybody who is thinking seriously about their career should read. It's called Impact Players. So this book, it's very fluffy, very easy to read, very light book. And basically you can just find the summary and you will understand the concept. But what I think is very important is in this book, you get the clear distinction between two categories of people at work: contributors and impact players. Contributors, they come, they contribute according to their job description, according to their time schedule, clock the time and go. And then there are impact players, those who get noticed, those who get promoted, those who provide impact. And what is the biggest differentiator between the impact players? It's not even the time between impact players and contributors. It's not even the time. But there are a couple of things. Let me quote this. So, impact players make heavy problems feel lighter. So they tackle something that nobody wants to tackle, and they just address this. They step into gaps without waiting for permission. They don't wait for someone to give them the task. They say like, okay, I believe this is not right. Let me try to fix this. Or, I think we can do this better. Let me try. And they see messy problems as opportunities and not threats. They see the problems that the inviting challenge rather than something to get away from. I honestly, sometimes I view problems as something that I want to avoid, and I do it quite often. But honestly, I like these 3 quotes. I believe we should follow this. And if we want to be serious about this, I believe this is the way to go.
Yeah. I think those are good points. And I even think about it because, you know this obviously, but I have team members reporting to me, right?
Okay.
And obviously now working with a lot of other people, younger people in the office, both on my team, outside the team, whatever. And an important thing you mentioned in there is making yourself reliable, dependable, and somebody that thinks about things ahead of time and solves problems without needing to, delay the process to then validate it, whatever the case is. So what I'm talking about is there's nothing more frustrating than asking somebody or a group of people to do a task, and rather than just make some decisions, assumptions, and moving ahead, they don't react and are instead extremely passive, waiting for problems to solve themselves, right?
Can you give maybe an example or illustrative situation?
For example, if you were to give somebody the task, hey, I need you to review this Excel file, for example. Give me some feedback, X, Y, and Z. Do that over the next couple hours, and then get back to me on that. So there's been instances I've had with colleagues where some sort of easily addressable problem would have been in there, either that could have been solved by, whether ChatGPT, asking other colleagues, asking me, whatever. People just choose to avoid and instead don't cover the topic at all. And again, to your point, shy away from the actual problem. And that becomes really destructive because all the time that you put into to achieve whatever task that's there, you don't actually achieve that task. So I think that's really important, which is to be proactive. And somebody said it in our office, but I think the phrase stuck with me of being switched on. So you need to be switched on, which is you turned your brain on, you're working. So you're thinking through things as situations unfold. Okay, I got this email, as you said, it presents a problem. I don't just immediately ignore it. I think about it. How can I actually address this? There's some sort of issue with something I need to do for X, Y, and Z person. Try to proactively address these problems. It's a really simple thing to do, but it just requires that additional effort, which is I'm taking this seriously. I'm being a professional. I think that's really important. And you mentioned also from your quote, and I think about it from having played a lot of basketball growing up, and still my favorite sport to play. And you always had, to your point, the differentiation between impact players and then just your standard, person. The best teams and the best players frequently are going to do more than what's immediately expected of them to do. So, for example, in basketball, do you play much basketball? Have you ever played basketball? You're Russian, so probably hockey, maybe something like that.
No, I'm not. No? I'm not there. I'm not there. Tennis is my thing, but basketball, no.
Okay, so tennis, I don't have a good metaphor for tennis, a one-on-one sport. But
I will find one.
Okay, you find one, you bring it here next time. But even basketball, and I think a lot about the Chicago Bulls, right? We talk about this all the time. Nice. And, the best dynasty in history. And you had players that fulfilled key roles. Somebody like Dennis Rodman, I think I told you about this guy. He was a rebounder. He was doing a lot of the dirty work on that team. And you always need people to do that. And it increases your value so much when you do the, whatever above and beyond has to be done. So if there's something, again, as you mentioned, whether it's, figuring out the copier situation, whether it's optimizing a process on your team, whether it's trying to solve a problem. If your boss has a problem, try to solve it. Try to be useful. If your colleagues have issues, try to be somebody that goes above and beyond. That is so valuable, and that makes a massive difference. So that, again, is an impact player.
Yeah.
Again, I think about someone like Dennis Rodman. He didn't score the most points, but he got his rebounds. He played good defense. He had effort. His key was effort and putting his body on the line for his team. That's an impact player.
True.
And I think that's the metaphor, and I couldn't agree more. That goes for a corporate setting also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Final thought? Yeah, I think I would say to all those Gen Z folks, all those people we were talking about who culturally think 9 to 5 is your only obligation, that's only going to work if you don't have ambition to grow your career and to make more money. If you want to do those things, you must be willing to put in that extra time and effort. We've both seen that in our own personal careers, and that's my biggest piece of advice and biggest thing I would say to whoever's listening.
Good. I think we might get canceled immediately for this episode because we are saying something completely that goes against the modern trend. But this is the truth. If you want to get the extraordinary results, you need to put some extra effort. It's that simple. And if I think about it, in my early years of my career, whenever you face the problem and then you solve this, it demonstrates something. It demonstrates resilience. It demonstrates your capabilities, and you become seen. But on the other hand, and it's even cooler, the best moments from your work, the best moments that you remember, these moments, they are connected with these challenges. You remember the challenges you have completed, the problems that you solved. You don't remember this, regular 9 to 5. Like if you have the boring day, you don't remember it. But whenever you solve this, yes, you do remember. I remember I don't recommend it to anyone, but I remember my first overnight at work. Hateful. Like I hated this. It's a terrible experience. I do not recommend it to anyone, and like avoid it by all means. And like employers and managers never make anybody to put the all-nighter. But I remember this. It was a challenge, and now it's a story to remember. And even more, I firmly believe whenever you solve the problem together as a team, this is one of the best team bonding exercise. If you need to put this all-nighter together with your team members because you're screwed as a team and like you need to get something by tomorrow, this will be the experience you totally remember. Again, avoid the all-nighters, but like if you solve the problems together as a team, this is the moment you will remember. This will be the highlight. And I'm sure if we quote The Last Dance, I'm sure this will be also
the one Netflix show that I've watched a lot. One of my favorite shows. Yeah.
Cool.
But just last point on that, because you got me thinking about it. And I think the biggest thing, and again, it goes back to a sports reference of having each other's back in the office, how valuable that is. When individual team members are struggling with something, you're able to pitch in and you can share in the burden. What you can collectively accomplish is so much more if you share that burden and treat work and treat your team that you're on as something you're personally invested in. And when you have that, again, what we've been able to do as my team, and I know what you're able to do with your team, has been extraordinary. And I think that benefits everybody: your career, your salary, and also the satisfaction you get. So, totally agree with that.
Yeah. I believe today we lay ground for a lot of different topics that will come in the future because these challenges and problems, they are actually one of the best way to fight the burnout. One of the reasons, but also one of the best cures. And also, I think we talked a lot about the corporate culture and how the employee versus employer work today. So we will definitely cover manager relations, like how do you deal with your managers, how do you deal with the corporate culture, how to navigate in the toxic culture if you have to, and so on and so on. So there is way more to come, and I think today we laid ground for it.
Thanks everybody for listening. If you want to continue the conversation, join our WhatsApp community, link in the description. We look forward to chatting with you there, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.